All right. Well, it feels like we've been gone for quite some time. It's only been 2 weeks, but you take 1 week off, it's really about
Yeah, there's
17
so many
days,
games. Yeah, so many games that we just feel like have blown us by.
Yeah. A lot's happened, since we last met up here for the show, but looking forward to it. And a lot's happened outside of the NFL realm as well. We have Mr. Mark Hespin, who now adds fiance to his name. Congratulations, sir.
I'd like to be referred to as fiance through the remainder of the show. Yes,
Right.
I got engaged over the weekend, and so not on Thanksgiving Day. That was reserved. I would have been way too focused and sweaty from the Bears and half asleep with all the penalties of the Oakland the Vegas Raiders versus Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, no, I got engaged to my incredible and gorgeous girlfriend, Lindsay, and very excited. But now it's wedding season, baby.
There you go.
I got to make sure that the wedding is, we're already looking at dates to make sure it doesn't interfere with football 2022.
Right.
I do not want to be that guy
that's the top priority right there.
I don't want to be that guy who's invited his friends to a wedding on a giant, playoff football day or a big NFL Sunday. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. So she doesn't know that. That's why I was like, yeah, those dates work really well. But that's okay. That's okay.
It doesn't need to be present if it's not a problem.
Everyone's got their priorities in getting married, and so these are going to be mine. These are going to be mine. That's for sure. Even though I do admit it was tempting that the idea of like doing like a later fall or like winter wedding maybe next year, because then it's like, well, maybe a bachelor party could be like going to a Bears game. But
that's a good point. Yeah,
I guess I just have to make it, a sad Cubs game in the summer or something like that.
Hey, I'll be all for that. So that's all good.
Yeah, I know. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's exciting time for sure.
Big step, and Mr. Quincy, you better be careful, man, because pretty soon you're going to be Quincy's top 20 under 70 pretty soon. So you are a Quincy man through and through now.
Well, I gotta wait. I mean, listen, I've already won 20 under 40 in Quincy, and I got to be under 40 for another 9 years. So I got to wait at least 9 years where they can give me some sort of award for being under 50. I don't know if they give any of those out, but yeah, we'll see. Or
it's all about working towards it.
Run for mayor eventually, I guess, or do something like that.
There you go. Hey, that's not out of the realm of possibility. And the alliteration of Mayor Mark makes just too much sense there. But let's not forget, the only one who's played a mayor on the wonderful stage is yours truly here back in high school. So just remember that.
I've never played a mayor. I've never played a mayor. Of all the roles, I've never played a mayor. You were the mayor.
I was the mayor for a short time. It was great.
Inherit the win. Yeah. Phenomenal. We need some water and some a Nate Byrne iconic phrase. I need some hot towels and ice. And what did he say?
I don't remember.
No one understands this, but I played a character who fainted, and Nate, Nate's character was the judge, and he went off stage saying contradicting things. They contradict. He's like, I need some hot rags and some ice or something like that. Why would you need?
What? Made no sense.
Yeah, it was always, just never, just funny. All right. Either way, yes, I'm engaged. Out of the way for all of our female listeners who are just hoping one day to maybe slide in my DMs. So no dice.
No more. It's off the market. Off the mark. Wow, dear Lord. All right. Let's get ourselves into this week 12 nonsense, because obviously we mentioned a lot's happened, and a lot that hasn't made sense has happened as well. We had a string of Thursday games for the Thanksgiving Day, of course, as is tradition. Lions, Cowboys in action in this one, and I guess we'll kind of rifle through these pretty quick before getting to the Sunday slate. But of course, we'll pay some attention to that Bears-Lions matchup in which Chicago edges Detroit 16-14 in a game where no Justin Fields. There was a lot of question marks coming in, obviously, as Matt Nagy was apparently on the hot seat and reports were coming out that he was going to get fired right after Thanksgiving. It seems strange, the report itself at the time. And it looks like that was not the case, or it was a plan by the Chicago Bears to light a fire under Nagy and the team. Who knows? But that's where we stand. And it certainly could have happened. But they were able to rally and get the win here, 16-14 behind Andy Dalton. And Dalton threw 39 times in this game, which is just crazy. It did not seem that was going to be necessary. But Cairo Santos gets them the game winner in the final seconds. And the Bears actually see a ball go through the uprights to win a game, which is pretty exciting, I imagine. But, hey, both of our teams have not performed well against the Lions, but one of them got an actual dub.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know what? Matt Nagy, it's classic Matt Nagy. He has been very good in his career as the Bears head coach against the Lions and the Vikings. You just look at the records, he has been. I don't want to talk about anything on the field. There's no point. There was no Justin Fields in this game. These are two losing franchises right now that are just, both of them aren't good. I've never been, I don't know how, I was really wrong on the Lions. They've just been so underwhelming. I didn't think they were going to be playoffs. But I thought they would win that over and hit that 5 games and surprise people. But they just have been really, really a complete disaster. They really have. But anyways, talking about the Bears as a whole, I do want to spend a minute or two on this and just say, we get caught up so easily in Nagy because Nagy is easy to get fired up about because he has the dumb press conferences where he says things like, think of the children with the taunting penalties that make you want to rip your bloody eyeballs out.
He's the one that's out there all the time. He's the base of it. Right?
He's the one who, shows at the press conferences is we got to get to the why. And with his stupid East Pittsburgh accent where Philadelphia accent where he says water, like he's in mayor of Easttown. He's the one whose offense continually disappoints and underperforms and can only score 1 touchdown in a game against the Detroit Lions with the quarterback that he wanted to start the year. That's the stuff that gets maddening. But I was never for firing Nagy in the season for a multitude of reasons, mainly because I don't think it sets a good precedent for a Bears organization that is not, I don't think is thought of in high regard in the NFL. But one of the things they do have going for them is they are fairly loyal, and they are a franchise that you do listen. You want to be able to attract an Eric Bieniemy, a Byron Leftwich, a Brian Dable. These guys who are going to be hot coaching candidates, commodities in the offseason. And so you never want to be that team that is not only dysfunctional, which they are, but dysfunctional and non-loyal. The Bears have shown loyalty. They showed it to Mark Trestman when it was worse than it was under Matt Nagy. They showed it to John Fox when it was embarrassingly bad. They showed it to Lovie Smith through all the good years and some of the lean years is in the Lovie Smith era as well. Dick Duran got loyalty at times when it got really bad. So Wanstead, I go back to all the Bears in my coaching life as a Bears fan. That is something they do have. And the other things that, so I'm not for fire coach mid-season unless it gets to the point of Urban Meyer and you got guys like leaving on jet planes and, sticking thumbs where they don't belong. I will say this, though. What really concerned me about those reports was that it never talked about Ryan Pace. And Ryan Pace has to be tied to Matt Nagy. Their fates are sealed. If Nagy stays, then you keep Pace. If you fire Nagy, Pace has to go. One of the things that was so apparent, too, is like the Lions, the success they had against the Bears defense on Thanksgiving Day, and they did find success in the air against the Bears, was attacking the corner opposite Jalen Johnson. That's been a problem all year, which is where Kyle Fuller was, but you can't afford to pay Kyle Fuller when you have Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, and Tariq Cohen on your payroll offensively, who have produced literally jack squat for you offensively.
And Jimmy Graham.
And Jimmy Graham, who only seems to play when Andy Dalton plays, which is not great because he's not the future of your franchise. So he makes these decisions. And if Pace's excuse is, oh, well, that's what my head coach wanted, then that's not the type of GM I want either. Your job is to pick the players for your coach to coach. That's why you're the general manager. And to have the spine, have the balls to do that. So I love the Corey Busses of the world on Twitter. He's a dedicated #FireNaggy guy every day. Our guy, Corey Buss. But you got to also, every time you #FireNaggy, you have to #FirePace. It's a package deal. And at this point in time, the Bears are winning in ways because of Nagy is not completely incompetent. There are things that overall that they've put together as an organization that he does show well, that he's, lasted 4 years, won a coach of the year. But Pace isn't incompetent either. He made a great deal to get Khalil Mack here. Having a centerpiece like Khalil Mack has been a good deal. He was aggressive when need be to get Justin Fields when Justin Fields fell. Those are positive moves. He found a David Montgomery deep in the draft. He found a Mooney deep in the draft. He made the trade for Allen Robinson. He stupidly hasn't signed Allen Robinson to keep him there. So for all the faults, they have some positive that have done some things to why the Bears haven't fallen apart like the New York Football Giants, or they haven't fallen apart like the Jets, or they haven't fallen apart like the Detroit Lions. But they are not taking the next steps as an organization like a Packers, like a Bucks, to be a consistently winning franchise, because these two guys aren't good enough at their job at the highest level. So if you're firing one, you got to fire both. Pace hired John Fox and he hired Matt Nagy. Neither have been good enough, and Pace hasn't bing good enough at finding the coach and bringing the talent. So I love the passion for fire Nagy, not at the kids' high school football game, but you got to have the passion for fire Pace as well.
Yeah, they are tied together, and a lot of that mismanagement in the offseason, particularly this past one, a lot of those things are coming to bite you. And honestly, I feel the same way about Pittsburgh in several regards.
Yeah,
with how they navigated it. And I'm usually, very pleased with how the front office, works around the cap and does its business. So that's been a unique thing there. But yeah, I totally agree. You can't have one without the other when it comes to this particular duo, because of how they are tied together and how they've kind of catered things towards that package deal, just how they've built this roster and things like that. So makes perfect sense. Let's move on to the other.
Can I say one final thing on the Bears, and I'm done with them. As good as you feel, and it's good to beat the Lions. It's good to be a divisional opponent. I mean, the Bears, it could get ugly the next 2 weeks. They have the Cardinals coming off the Cardinals bye, and then they have the Packers coming off their bye. So you're about to get two really good teams who are battling for number one overall seed in the NFC when they're rested, healthy, and have extra time to prepare for you. And you don't have Khalil Mack. Who knows where Robinson's status will be in those games. So it could get really, really ugly, and that could still lead for the Bears to fire Nagy during the season. Again, I hope they don't, unless they also then say we're firing our general manager mid-season as well.
Yeah. The afternoon game on Thanksgiving Day, the Raiders at the Cowboys, 36-33 win for Las Vegas in overtime with Daniel Carlson's boot. He's been incredible this year, probably the best kicker in the league next to Justin Tucker as of right now. The way he's been performing this season got me 21 points in fantasy as well. But really what was more telling about this was just, I guess it's one of those situations yet again where this is the case for most quarterbacks, but when you're asking people to get in shootouts like a Dak Prescott, they have underperformed in this way. In 47 attempts for Dak, this is just not the formula for the Dallas Cowboys to win a football game. And the Raiders have been good. You got to give them credit for how they've kind of dealt with stuff this year, the team itself. At the end of the day, this is a game the Cowboys should have easily won. It's Thanksgiving. It's your turf. It's in at Arlington. And they drop a game in overtime to the Raiders, who were, you had every chance to beat the Raiders and you could, pounce on them, but they rallied and get the win. I just feel like at this point, Mark, what if the Cowboys are in these situations where this was a playoff type atmosphere kind of game, this seems to me to be kind of a recipe for disaster for Dallas. They can beat up on the teams that maybe can't keep pace, but if a team is constantly forcing them to throw the football, it seems like things are just not going to go their way on that front.
I'll say this. I want to start with the Raiders. These are not the John Gruden Raiders. I mean, that is what a fight win for them through an ugly penalty-ridden game. The Raiders, it's so unfortunate the division they're in because the AFC and the NFC West are so loaded. But this is an open coaching job. And if you're one of these guys who's ahead, again, you're talking about starting to be vacancies and openings, or just talking about the Bears. If you're one of these guys looking at a job, how do you not think the Raiders is an attractive job? I mean, they have a lot of good core pieces. And Derek Carr's playing really good football. If you can support him, it feels like he's just keeping the organization afloat, literally with throwing floaters up there sometimes. But I also think that just it's a heck of a win by them on in a primetime stage, the most watched regular season game in NFL history, by the way.
There you go.
Those numbers came out like a 38 million, 38 million viewers. It's insane.
It's right in that window of when people were getting their meals, on the plate versus the Bears game where everyone's actually cooking and
they're hungry for real football after the Bears versus Lions.
That's
I will say this, for the Cowboys, you nailed it. I mean, this is just it's not the game plan they want. Talk about things getting ugly. We're just talking about things getting ugly for the Bears. Cowboys now, coaching staff riddled with COVID. The schedule is again, it's not a brutal schedule, but they've lost 3 in a row. They've started the wheels coming off a little bit. Thank goodness their division is weak right now. But they're limping.
2 in a row, 2 losses in a row. To the Chiefs and the Raiders, but still, I mean, they got a road game against the Saints next.
2 in a row, but 3 of 4.
Correct.
Is that maybe okay, so there you go.
They beat the Falcons 3 weeks ago, but then lost to the Broncos the week before. So
yes, that's right. Ugly loss to the Broncos, win against the Falcons, 2 losses in a row. And so they're reeling right now. Can they turn it around? And now they have to try to turn around with they already said Mike McCarthy's out for the Saints game Thursday night. Maybe that's a benefit. Kellen Moore, talk about a future head coaching candidate. The offensive coordinator, hopefully, he's healthy. It could be one of the coaches who's not affected. But anyways, you're absolutely right. Just a bad game plan for the Cowboys.
Yeah, when you have guys like Zeke and Tony Pollard, who are a great 1-2 punch, probably as good as it gets in the league, it's crazy that they can't dominate teams with the run. Yeah, they've run well. It's not like they're a trash rushing offense. It's just like you would think they'd be able to absolutely manhandle teams, and they just haven't been able to at that point with that aspect. They're still 7-4, still a team that's going to make the playoffs, probably win their division, and possibly even win a playoff game. It's just one of those things. We'll see with their Super Bowl playing update later on, whether or not they're a team that can contend for the Super Bowl, given how they've lost some of these games this season. The Bills on the road at the Saints absolutely clobber New Orleans, 31-6. Josh Allen, after a shaky start, really the first quarter, completely dominates the rest of the way. 4 touchdowns for him. Saints really had no answer in this one. And it's one of those things, Mark, where, the team that was a dominant offense for so long, that had a couple good seasons of where they were really good defensively, has now almost flipped to where they're a really good defense, but their offense just can't get anything going. And that should be expected when Drew Brees retires. And it was kind of going that way. You had no Alvin Kamara in this one, no Jameis Winston for the past couple weeks. Trevor Siemian comes in. It's just, it's not going to work. It just isn't. And I don't know what more you can say about this matchup. It was kind of expected. The Saints are reeling offensively. They're probably going to have a tough go of it for the next several weeks too. Alvin Kamara is not going to be able to solve all your problems. Meanwhile, the Bills were kind of hungry after, having a lot of question marks about how good they actually were after a tough week. They come back and get a big road win. You can't take it away. It's tough to win in New Orleans at the Superdome, and they get it done. So, week after week, it's coming back to the Bills are the Bills, and they're probably going to be right in the thick of things for that AFC East title by the end of this one. So
I said on my Saturday. Yeah, I said on my Saturday morning show, such a needed win for the Bills. It's still a good road win, even though the Saints offense has really kind of fallen into shambles since the Jameis injury. Listen, the Bills they're in a battle right now because we'll talk about the Patriots coming on up here in a second. I still feel good about the Bills, but they're running into some real problems just offensively. I mean, Josh Allen, he was great. The one interception, it's hard when Cam Jordan assaults your arm as you're throwing the ball forward. He's such a monster, Cam Jordan. But you know what? I will say this about the Saints quickly. They have, to me, the only thing that's important for the Saints right now is to not fall apart, because of all of the teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks in the offseason. The Saints have an opportunity, in my opinion, to be the most attractive destination. If you have a healthy Alvin Kamara, if you can work things out with Michael Thomas, and you have Sean Payton. Sean Payton, if you're a quarterback, an Aaron Rodgers, a Russell Wilson, one of the guys available, maybe a Derek Carr, depending on what happens in that situation. You say to yourself, do I want to go to a Vic Fangio in Denver, even though they're really turning it around? They got a great defense and some young talent. Do I want to go to a Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, even though they got a lot of talent, defensive guys? Do I want to go where Drew Brees became a Hall of Famer because this guy built an offense that's made for quarterbacking? So if you're the Saints, can you stay afloat enough and not fall apart? To me, that's the most important thing if I'm a Saints fan for the rest of the season. It's about being the attractive destination, clearing some cap space, making smart moves in the offseason, keeping your core intact and healthy enough, because they're not too far away from being a win-now team, especially defensively, if they can pay their luxury tax, figure out some stuff with the cap, to be an attractive destination for a primetime free agent quarterback.
Yeah, and who would you rather? What division would you rather enter? The AFC West, the AFC North, or the NFC South?
Well, you got to be with Brady, but Brady could be out of there in a year or two.
Yeah, and it's not comparable to the type of competition you would face at some of those other divisions. You at least only, for the most part, only have to worry about Brady, other than, three young quarterbacks in the North, or, Patrick Mahomes and the Denver defense and Las Vegas in the West. So yeah, that's there's a lot to think about when making those decisions, but it's attractive, and they play in a dome. Like, all of these things are attractive. All right, let's get to Sunday slate. We'll start, and this will be short. An absolute disaster of a performance by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a dominating win, and a we're here type of game from the Cincinnati Bengals. Yep. I'd say. I mean, this said a lot more about Cincinnati than it did about Pittsburgh, in the ways of, like, Joe Burrow, when entering this, was all the question marks of, really, is he going to be able to overcome this terrible franchise? Is Zach Taylor a coach that's going to last in this league? And can Joe Burrow actually live up to the NFL standards, or was he just a guy that had a one year wonder, at LSU? This was a huge game for him, and even he wasn't amazing in this game, but he played so well in terms of leading this offense and getting a signature win at home against a Pittsburgh team that really, was coming off of two really down weeks, that you knew they were coming in hungry for this one, to stamp your mark in a stadium that Ben has had such success over the years. That was a huge win for the Bengals. Joe Mixon is now showing that he's, not a fluke, because there's been injury concerns the past couple of seasons.
Yep.
Is he really that dominant of a running back? I think people have started to see against that Pittsburgh run defense that, for the most part, had a lot of health back. They're still shaky at the defensive line, but it was a huge win for the Bengals. I think it shows that they are right there in the thick of things for the AFC North. It's not Baltimore's division anymore. The Bengals are saying, hey, we're here. We're right front and center. And if Baltimore wants to win this, they're going to have to claw it from us as well. And so that was a huge performance from them. On the Pittsburgh side, I mean, I don't know what to say other than it was just an absolute shit show. I mean, they weren't competitive from the start.
Yeah.
You you had TJ Watt back, and who knows how healthy he was, but you had him back for this game. You had Minkah Fitzpatrick back for this game. You didn't have Joe Hayden back healthy, but this to me kind of comes back to the Bears not deciding we're going to be fine without Kyle Fuller. The Steelers said we're going to be fine without Mike Hilton and Steven Nelson. And then after getting rid of those guys, they had tons of cap to work with going into the season. So to me, they either didn't get done what they wanted to get done in the offseason on the free agent market, or they were in over their head, or they were a little bit too overconfident because they ended up having the cap to afford Steven Nelson or Mike Hilton, and they decided we're going to be fine without either. I mean, those secondary issues are now coming to absolutely haunt them. T. Higgins had himself a game.
Burned him.
And you just can't have that, and you can't let a team run over you like that in a game in a divisional game. I mean, they absolutely made a mockery of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers deserved to be made a fool of. And a lot of Pittsburgh media is now, calling for Tomlin to be on the hot seat. I personally don't think, I still don't think that is the right call, but he deserves to get the heat for it. I just don't think you need to. Him being fired is not going to solve anything. But he deserves to take some heat for this because the team was not ready. Clearly, you lost by 31 points.
Yeah, I'll say this is fascinating. The Bengals, have had great wins this season against Big Brother. They beat Pittsburgh handily. They beat Baltimore handily. It seems as though Joe Burrow, what he's given to Cincinnati. You remember, Andy Dalton won that division, I think, 3 times or 2 times in a couple playoff wild card appearances.
Yep.
The Bengals, they have been little brother, but they've been little brother in a lot of ways. The Bears have been little brother, or the Vikings. They've had spurts.
They have fight.
They have spurts over the past 20 years, with the Carson Palmer years, a couple years, and then a couple, Andy Dalton years.
Sure.
And what Joe Burrow has brought, and with the swagger, it's the type of thing where it's like, we're gonna be competitive in our own division, and we're not gonna get walked over in our own division. And now, whether Zach Taylor, that's why it's frustrating to any NFL fan when you then have letdowns against bad teams, as the Bengals have had as well. Because when you beat good teams and beat division opponents that handily, it's like, well, why did we just bleep and lose to so-and-so then the next week, whatever it may be. But I'll say this on the Pittsburgh side of it. Listen, Tomlin deserves criticism for his team being blown out. Anytime a head coach clearly just their team gets outwilled, outmanned, there was zero fight, the game plan was bad, you deserve criticism. Mike Tomlin being fired would solve 0 issues for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
100%, yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers' issues are the fact that they ran the ball 15 times for 51 yards, and Joe Mixon carried the ball for 28 times for 160 yards. That's the problem. Pittsburgh Steeler football, just like Windy City, Chicago football, just like Baltimore Raven football, just like Cleveland Brown football should be, is you run the ball more than your opponent and you're able to crush them when they try to run the ball. That is the identity of those franchises. You know what I mean? The Green Bay Packers, that's not their identity. Their identity is Hall of Fame quarterbacks and some really solid defenses mixed in there. But the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers and some of these other franchises, it is, I relate to it as a Bears fan. It is, you run the football better than they do, and you stop the run better than they do. And that was embarrassing for them. So that's where the heat should come. Not that Mike Tomlin, as you've mentioned multiple times in the show, he got the Pittsburgh Steelers to the playoffs last year with Duck Hodgins and Mason. The dude can coach. He should be the coach of Pittsburgh Steelers. He should have the chance to usher in the next era of Steelers football with a young quarterback or a new quarterback and see what he can do in the post-Big Ben era. He has earned that right. So do not call for his head in that way. But you are allowed to be critical of Mike Tomlin because he had his team completely out-prepared and outmatched by Zach Taylor.
Yeah, and you look at the divisional standings here. They're in the basement, but the Bengals at 7-4, the Baltimore Ravens just ahead of them at 8-3, the Cleveland Browns 6-6, Pittsburgh 5-5-1, you mentioned some of those games that are must wins. Pittsburgh could be 6-4-1 right now had they, or I'm sorry, 6-5 if they had just won that Lions game. Like a game like that. That's why those matter. Those are, you can't have those types of performances because, now you're in the basement. Now you're going to have to claw your way to even try and get into the playoffs. If you can even, muster up that type of performance back to back. And, we've talked about Pittsburgh's schedule is absolutely brutal moving forward. I mean, they're pretty much screwed. I mean, they have the Ravens and then the Vikings and then the Titans, the Chiefs, the Browns, the Ravens. Like that's their slate the rest of the way. That's terrifying. So they've got a lot of issues that they need to sort out moving forward. The Bucs go on the road at the Colts, and this was a wild game. I mean, Carson Wentz played really well. Jonathan Taylor played well down the stretch. Leonard Fournette had 4 total touchdowns in this game.
Save me in fantasy.
See, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was huge. The Bucs can win a lot of different ways, and I think that's what stuck out in this one. Like they were able to really dominate in the trenches in this one in a game where Vita Vea loses a tooth. Like that was crazy.
That was an insane video.
Mina Kimes tweeted out saying that's probably the only gap he can't fill this whole week. And honestly, that was a great tweet there. But yeah, Bucs win 38-31 in just a slugfest. And Tampa, that's a big win for Tampa because it's on the road at the Colts, and the Colts have been playing really well. They played well in this game. Like the takeaway from this to me is that the Colts, I think still are probably a better team than the Titans. Like I know the Titans are I don't know. Like I truly feel the Colts can win this division still, and not just by a numbers thing, but I think they have the ability to win this and be more of a force down the stretch. I don't want to get too high or low on the Titans, but the Colts showed a lot in this game. But got to give credit to the Bucs though. Colts had a really good defensive performance for the most part, other than the run, obviously. But the Bucs, found a way to win and really down the stretch in that second half. We're just dominant. So, they're 8-3 now, Tampa Bay is, and they are very much looking like to keep pace in those NFC standings that are, everyone's still able to win as towards the top. The Green Bays, the Rams, even things like that. Tampa Bay still staying in that conversation.
Yeah, I think it's a really big win for the Bucs on the road against a Colts team that has been playing really good football as of late. It's a hard thing to say, are the Colts better than the Titans? I mean, the Titans beat them twice this year, but that's when the Titans were still the Titans. The Titans also right now, they're hitting that part of their season where I still think it's a well-coached team and overall a good team. They just, I mean, did you see the wide receivers they trotted out against New England? We'll talk about it in a second.
They were depleted.
I mean, they are right now decimated, and and Ryan Tannehill. Again, I don't want. All right, let me talk about the Titans later. Let's focus on the Colts. What I'll say about the Colts is, I agree with you. The Colts are playing really good football overall. Problem with the Colts is that was again a Carson Wentz game in the second half, where you say to yourself, Carson Wentz has been playing solid football. It's kind of like Baker Mayfield in a little bit of a way. They're very different players, but the way they affect the game can be similar in the sense where it's like, yeah, I mean, they can win you games. They can keep you in games, but can they win? Right now, I just have zero faith in them winning you multiple big games in a row where they make the big plays and it's like, holy crap, that's our guy. And they made the big plays.
Well, and they're streaky. I think that's they're very streaky. Even in game, they're streaky.
And the Colts are playing very much like the Browns right now. I mean, solid defense. They have a defensive star, Myles Garrett, Darius Leonard, and you have running backs. Jonathan Taylor is just incredible right now and deserves all the praise in the world. And you know what? The Colts are still in a solid position right now. They've won enough games and putting himself in a good spot. It's no shame to lose this Bucs team. This Bucs team is for real. I've been saying it all year. I've kept them in first class of the Super Bowl plane. They're still there. Spoiler alert. If you have Tom Brady in your team and you're not decimated by injuries, which the secondary's been an issue. They've had guys come and go, but even Vita Vea playing through the knee injury that he got that looked like bad a couple weeks ago. They're all right. And again, as you said, the Bucs have so many ways to beat you. No AB. And yet it's Leonard Fournette who has like a game where it's like, that's the Leonard Fournette that was drafted out of LSU type of game.
That was last year's playoff Lenny.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was Super Bowl Lenny, as a part of my take guys would say. And so, yeah, great win for the Bucs and not a bad loss for the Colts. But again, shows you what's the concern about the Colts and why I don't think the Colts are a real Super Bowl winning threat is that Carson Wentz is streaky.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was also somewhat of a microcosm of the AFC versus the NFC as well.
Yeah.
The NFC is just a little bit better, and especially top heavy. The good teams in the NFC are seemingly much better than the good teams in the AFC. The Titans go on the road, so we'll get to that game. The Patriots, it was just a 23-point win for the Patriots. It was a dominant performance. I mean,
yeah.
Mac Jones once again looked pretty good, looked very poised in this one. We mentioned all the injuries. It's hard to read a whole lot into this game, but the Titans drop a tough one, and now, I mean, it's probably 1 or 2 weeks too late, but I think we really need to start talking about the Patriots being among the top 3 teams in the AFC, if not the top team in the AFC at this point, because of how their defense is playing.
Dan, it's hard. Again, I don't want to necessarily overreact. They have beaten some teams that they should beat. They're you know what I mean? The schedule, I mean, you can look back and who they're on the streak against, and a Titans team that's come in very, very wounded. What to me is concerning if I'm a fan in the AFC and the idea of dealing with the Patriots is they have veteran guys. Think about that free agency class they brought in. They have veteran guys that have all bought in and are really playing well and are playing big. I mean, Judon is incredible. The relationship that Hunter Henry has developed with Mac Jones, and Mac Jones is just, you listen to his press conferences now versus training camp.
Yeah.
He is Belichick speak to a T now. I mean, he's learned it. So that's all scary. The buy-in is scary, and the history of the Patriots is scary if I'm an AFC team. I don't overjump the gun, but they are good. And right now, they are, to me, one of the top 2 teams in the AFC right now. Right today, right now. What will that mean when you have a rookie quarterback maybe on the road at the Chiefs in an AFC playoff game? I don't know. So I don't want to overjump the gun. Right now, it's very much so. You have to give them their due. And they have a tougher schedule remaining, if I'm not correct.
They do. They play the Bills twice in the next 3 weeks, and the Colts are mixed into that.
Yeah,
so.
That's Bills, Colts, Bills. That. It's not it's not a walk in the park. And it's a chance for all 3 of those teams to kind of, maybe separate from the other. And who have they beaten on this win streak?
So it's a 6-game win streak. They've won 7 of their last 8. The 6-game win streak goes Jets, Chargers, Panthers, Browns, Falcons, and Titans. The Browns, Titans, both blowout wins.
Yeah.
And they beat the Chargers by 3 on the road. But those are impressive wins. Their only loss in that 8-game stretch is to the Cowboys, and that was a 6-point game. So looking pretty good.
But, there's some Jets mixed in there as well. And getting the Browns when they're injured, the Titans when they're injured, whatever it may be. And Belichick's record against young quarterbacks, I think we talked about the time when they beat the Chargers, it is what it is. And for the Titans, like I was just saying, they're beat up. They're a mess right now. I still feel good about the Titans if they can get Julio Jones back. Can you get A.J. Brown back? Remember, they have a cushion on the Colts. Colts lost again this week. And they have the 2 games up on the Colts of the head-to-head matchup. So they're still in a really good spot to just get healthy, get right for a playoff run. Can you get Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, these weapons back? You're not going to get Derrick Henry back most likely unless you go really deep in the playoffs. And even then do you bring him back or not? I don't know. But remember, even though everyone's like, well, Tannehill signed a big deal. Tannehill's deal was about $25 million a year. He was not in the Dak $40 million a year mark.
Correct.
Tannehill's deal still gives so much flexibility. I think it was 4 years, $25 million a year. That is such a bargain. And Tannehill then shows you what he is. Listen, when you take away all my guys, I can't win games. But when you have a Derrick Henry, you can afford because of my deal. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, which you can afford because of my deal. We win a bunch of games and we look like we're the best team in the AFC. So again, Tannehill and what the Titans have done is a roadmap for the Derek Carrs, for the Baker Mayfields, for those mid-level guys who are anywhere between like 8 and 15, for the Kirk Cousins. Tannehill, I think, is at the top of that list, saying, I'm as talented as Dak Prescott, but you gave Dak 40, and now you don't have the money to spend around Dak. And when Dak's guys are injured, it's really concerning. My guys are injured. That's concerning, but you got the money at least to spend because I signed for the $25 million a year deal. It also, there's less pressure on a franchise to panic with the Tannehill under that deal than it will be. So Baker, it's a warning. If the Browns offer you 4 years, $22 million guaranteed, it's a lot of money. You made a lot of money with those Progressive commercials. You may want to sign that deal. I know it's not the Dak deal. It's not what Josh Allen's got. It's not what Lamar Jackson's getting, but you give yourself security and then you can say to the media, hey, I'm a team player.
Yeah.
Fault to my GM why he didn't get me another wide receiver, why he didn't get me another offensive lineman, why he didn't go get a cornerback. Take the blame off yourself as a quarterback. I think it's now, as I'm looking at Titans struggling, I can say that in defense of Ryan Tannehill and his struggles is that dude took a team-friendly deal overall, and he's got a bunch of guys out right now. So I'm not panicking yet in the Titans.
Let's lump 3 games in together here, Mark, because there aren't really any, nothing on the line for all 6 of these teams for the most part. Eagles go on the road, fall to the Giants 13-7. Falcons beat the Jaguars 21-14, and the Jets beat the Texans 21-14. Biggest takeaway from all 3 of these games, in my mind, is that I think the Jalen Hurts experiment, they may need to start thinking about a potential future deal. It's one game. You don't want to go too much, but it's just. The Eagles haven't seen, I don't think, much, spark out of this in terms of what maybe you thought initially you could get. He's still a dual threat type of guy, but he goes 14-31 in this game. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, just all around against a divisional opponent that these are games where you get up for. That was pretty underwhelming. For a lot of reasons, but he still hasn't had a full season of work.
Yeah.
Yet, so you do got to give some time, but I'm just saying, I think you got the ears perk up a bit and you got to start thinking.
I will say this, actually, I think there was still more pressure on a Daniel Jones and the Giants than the Eagles. I mean, they lost on the road to a divisional opponent, and their young quarterback hasn't played well, but he's a 2nd-round pick. And is not even been 2 years in the NFL. Daniel Jones is on year 3? It was the 6th overall pick. Still, that whole organization is still, we beat the Eagles, and not being able to score points. They've given him weapons, given him opportunities. I think they're just in a worse spot than the Eagles are right now, even though it is a ugly loss for the Eagles. Again, if I'm the Eagles, I don't want to be in a rush. I mean, they have 3 first round.
They have a lot of picks. Yeah. They have capital.
They have a ton of ability to put talent around Jalen Hurts. They have a ton of ability to say, we will give you Jalen Hurts and a first round pick for a guy. They have the ability to say, we'll give you 2 first round picks for a quarterback and still keep their quarterback. You know what I mean? A Russell Wilson in a Philly or whatever they want to do. So if I'm the Eagles, I still feel pretty good about where we're at. You're in the playoff hunt. You have a young quarterback who's shown flashes, and you have a young quarterback that when the coach asks him to throw 31 times, it doesn't go well. But when the coach designs run games around him and Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard and Scott, it goes really well. So, I don't want to panic if I'm the Eagles. I think there's way more questions and frustration if you're a Giants fan or what you're doing versus if you're an Eagles fan. So interesting stuff. Yeah, a lot of dead games. I'll say this about you mentioned the Jets Texans really quick. Again, Zach Wilson, not playing great, but getting a win,
Yeah, on the road.
But there's a lot of concerns for this rookie quarterback class besides Mac Jones. I mean, Trey Lance is now gone.
Yeah.
When's the last time we mentioned Trey Lance? He's gone off the radar. He's healthy, and yet they're sticking with Garoppolo.
Yeah, they haven't used any packages for him. Like
they're
at
winning
all,
games. Justin Fields now slight fractured a couple ribs on a very kind of routine, run that he got dragged down, fall. Like that's a concern, injury concern already early in his career. Trevor Lawrence, he looked okay, but in a loss against a Falcons defense that's been, quarterbacks have been padding stats against all year. Jalen Hurts did it himself. And where's the offensive ingenuity out of that staff and building around Trevor Lawrence? So I'll say this, to me, there's some other concerns. Zach Wilson hasn't shown flashes of a guy that like the Jets took second overall. I mean, like, where are the flashes? Where is the excitement? Where's the zip? Where's the, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of other things you can be concerned about than if just the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. I actually think they're in a much better spot right now than the Jets and some other places that feel like they got their guy, 6 months ago.
Yeah, that's a fair point. By the way, Trevor Lawrence has not thrown multiple touchdowns since week 1, in which he threw 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
it's all been 1 and then 2 picks or 1 and 1. So for a team that's been throwing a lot, they haven't gotten that production. It's not just him, obviously. There's a lot of things to take into account. The Chargers at the Broncos. Broncos, a really good performance, especially defensively in this one. They beat the Chargers 28-13. Justin Herbert, probably one of his worst games, if not his worst game as a pro. He did his part in terms of leading the team, to try and keep fighting throughout this one. But, he just got caught up in too many poor decisions. The 2 picks were not, good throws, except for the Eckler one. I guess you could say it went off of Eckler. It seemed like the team maybe was starting to give up at that point, late in the fourth quarter there as a pick 6. But, some tough throws for Justin Herbert and company. But, good fight from the Broncos and a good win for Denver.
Again, it's hard. It's hard because you're absolutely right. It was not a statistically great game for Justin Herbert if you look at just the box score. But if you watch the game and check out the highlights, you realize some of the things were not his fault. And it was kind of the Chargers charging themselves as a franchise, kind of had a history of doing. Again, I don't want to be too difficult on Justin Herbert. I think this is there's a little bit of a sophomore slump going on. Joe Burrow's had some stinkers in his sophomore year as well. These are guys that are, again, young quarterbacks going up against a Vic Fangio who's in division, who's a defensive mastermind. And they created some stuff some difficult looks for him, you could tell. And they certainly, know that they want to be competitive in their own division. And for the Broncos, this is a team that just keeps surprising me every time. That Dallas win was surprising. This was a surprising win. And it to me, it seems though I was texting my little brother, Phil, we're diehard Bears fans, going to myself, damn, wouldn't I love to maybe have Vic Fangio as the head coach of the Chicago Bears right now? You know what I mean? Like discipline, their structure. There's an identity to this team when they're healthy. They just, if I can
they run the football.
If I could take all of that plus Vic, bring it to Chicago with Justin Fields, I think I'd be a really happy camper signing up for something like that. So, 2 teams that are very equal in where they're at. I think they're both on the up and up. Same with the Raiders. I think they're all still looking up at Kansas City, but that's what makes that AFC West so difficult. I think it's fairly well coached. I think there's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball on all 3 teams. The Raiders defensively, probably the worst unit of all of the units, like offense, defense in the AFC West. But I think they're offensively way better than a Broncos team, but the Broncos don't turn it over and they're very efficient. They have maybe a little bit more of an identity than the Raiders. So when you look at all of that combined, it makes for really hard to predict games in the AFC West when they're battling each other. Besides, right now, you feel like the Chiefs have a little bit of an edge over all three teams, but it's proven that all three teams right now can beat the Chiefs maybe on any given day as well. Very competitive division. And for an all-around great guy in Vic Fangio, nice win to keep him going. And for Brandon Staley, remember, rookie head coach with a sophomore quarterback, dealing with some injuries. And overall, I don't want to panic about the Chargers. Again, I have the Chargers as the 7th seed. They're still battling for the ability to stay that way. So I don't want to panic too much.
Yeah, absolutely. The Chargers will be fine. And as of right now, they are the 7th seed if the playoffs were to start today. The Packers get a home win over the Rams in what was, a huge showdown between two of the top teams in the NFC. And, Aaron Rodgers and company take care of business. Big game for A.J. Dillon, although on the stat sheet it doesn't look that way. But he came up with some very important runs, some third down conversions. And, Matthew Stafford looked a little more pedestrian in this one.
Yep.
And that's what you get. I mean, with the Rams, I still think are a very good team. I obviously had them as the 1 seed. They're not that right now. And, they're still one of the top teams in the NFC in my mind. I think, defensively and stuff, they still are good. But look, I mean, with a team that has, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey on their defense, they have shown that their defense just hasn't been as dominant as you would figure a defense with those kind of players would be. And that is concerning, even though they're going up against, obviously, one of the best quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers. You still expect probably more fight from that team. And Matthew Stafford and company, can't turn the ball over the way they did in this game.
No, I mean, it was brutal in that way. And I mean, the Rams are not beating good teams. I mean, you can look at their schedule.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's a concern. I mean, their 4 losses are against 4 teams, and you're like, all right, well, those are the games you want to see them. That Bucs win is maybe clouding us a little bit because that was such a primetime game earlier in the season, and still kind of a rival moment for Matthew Stafford. I'm not panicking about the Rams, but I will say this, spoiler alert for the Super Bowl plane, it's the first time I've dropped them out of first class. I no longer feel right now today the Rams, because it looks like they're just not going to win their division. And I just feel like they're no longer they cannot, to me, win multiple road games in the NFC at a Green Bay, at a Tampa, when they're not going to have any home field help. I just don't see them with that ability right now because they just haven't proved it yet. I mean, look at who they've lost to in the regular season. And so that's how I'm feeling right now about the Rams. If they can somehow find a way things turn around for them in the last third of the season here to get some home playoff games, get some breaks go their way, absolutely. I feel much better about them and where they're at. But they just don't feel like road warriors right now. And that's the position they're putting themselves in with losing games like this. Now, for the Packers, I hate to say it. You know me. I hate to say it more than anyone. They're the best team in the NFL right now.
They're really good.
Today,
really good.
And the best team in the NFC today in the NFC. Listen, what I think is scary about this Packers team is you see the bite from the defense. I don't know if it's a historically good defense, and I haven't looked at where they are in their defensive ranks right now. You can maybe look that up as I'm blabbling here. But but the eye test is this defense is attacking the football. This defense is getting turnovers. This defense is making plays at opportune times and in big moments. And Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't turn the ball over. It's maddening. It is mad. As I pound the table, it's maddening how a guy can just not turn the ball over, and he just doesn't. And he
has 4 picks this year, 23 touchdowns, 4 picks.
To me, and you don't even get strip fumbles. Like, I mean, to me, it's one of the things when he goes in the Hall of Fame, it has to be like in paragraph 1 of Aaron Rodgers' history. The dude is like all-time great at not turning the ball over. Mm-hmm. And that means something. In the modern NFL, especially when defense is harder than ever to play, turnovers are what saves defenses, and he doesn't do it.
Yep.
He doesn't do it. Quarterbacks are almost, picks aren't as big of a deal anymore for quarterbacks. It's kind of like launch angle in the baseball. Like, who cares if you strike out? Because you just it's an overwhelming amount of offense. But he doesn't do it and still gets an overwhelming amount of offense. So he has to be praised for it. Adams is great. You forget about how great Devontae Adams is sometimes. And you're right. Dillon, that run game, it's an intimidating factor, especially when it looks like you're going to be going to Green Bay in the playoffs again. And I know no one loves to watch the Green Bay Packers lose a NFC Championship game on their home field turf more than me, but it's still scary, the idea of Lambeau Field in January, and having the idea of hoping that a Rams, an Arizona, or a Bucks can win that game. It just gets scarier when that game and Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth show up at Lambeau for a big game like that. You just know it's going to be a nail. I'm going to be biting my nails. It looks like that's where we're headed, though.
Yeah. No, they are by far the best team in the NFL, like you said, as of right now. I still feel confident in the Rams. I still think they could be a Super Bowl team based on personnel overall, but maybe that's just a bias towards talent.
Could be.
I could regret saying that in a few weeks. Vikings on the road at the 49ers, and San Fran comes out with a big win in what was a relatively competitive game throughout. Yeah. Elijah Mitchell, though, the 49ers have just been able to run the ball very well. Deebo Samuel is an absolute beast. That guy is one of those wide receiver running back hybrids like Cordero Patterson this year. They've just been so good in multiple facets of the game. Deebo's, a big stocky guy too to bring down. And Jimmy Garoppolo he's winning games with this team. So he's helping lead this team to multiple victories in what was a big win for them against, a competitive Minnesota team, but they get the 34-26 win. What did you take anything away from this, in terms of Kirk Cousins and the Adam Thielen had a big game.
Yeah.
But it did seem like Kirk was really struggling in this one at times, even though at the end of the day, it still seemed like a decent performance by the quarterback. Jimmy G and Kirk, who I've compared a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy G won this battle big time, and he just looked like the more competent quarterback under center.
100% agree with that. I'll just say this. I thought this was a matchup for both teams to like. The winner of this game, even though, the winner of this game to me, it felt so much like was going to have then a heartbeat in the playoffs. Like the winner of this team sets themselves up for the last third of the season to be that team in the NFC that you're like, oh crap,
you don't want to play, right?
Yeah, they're both physical teams. They both feel limited at the quarterback position, but they have explosive weapons with Samuel, with Jefferson, with Thielen, with Greg Kittle. No Dalvin Cook right now. There's some. His health is an issue. The running back health overall in the NFL, with McCaffrey, with Henry, with Kamara, with Cook. A lot of big name guys dealing with big injuries and some possible IRs and season enders. But overall, it just felt like the winner of this team was going to have a real heartbeat in the playoffs. And I think San Francisco, to me, they won that game, yes, because Jimmy G's decision making. But I also think there was a slight coaching win. I thought Kyle Shanahan, who knows Kirk Cousins really well from their days in Washington, knew exactly what to do to make sure Kirk Cousins could put up stats, but wasn't going to beat them in that game. And that, to me, what felt like a little bit of the difference maker in that game.
Yeah. No, I agree with that one for sure. And the 49ers were dead in the water.
Oh, they were.
After the first quarter of the season, we were like, man, this team's probably not going to make the playoffs. But here they are, when Kyle Shanahan's able to rebound, and Jimmy G, they got more stability once again. They're healthy in the run game again, so things are coming together. They won this game without utilizing George Kittle at all. Obviously in the run game, he has his presence, but so that just, that's dangerous too. They put up 34 points without George Kittle being a factor at all. This team is, coming together at the right time, and they're still, able to be in the thick of things. They're only a couple games out from the Rams, who were seeming to really separate themselves just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And here we are. Let's go to the Sunday night contest, which is kind of a stinker. The Ravens, 4 interceptions for Lamar Jackson against Cleveland. at Baltimore, but Baltimore comes away with the win 16-10. Relatively sloppy game here. Baker still that injury, he is not, you got to give him credit for toughing it out. The guy is
got
tough.
Multiple injuries. He does.
And he's dealing with a lot. And, but both teams, I kind of came away concerned with this one. It's like Baltimore, yeah, you're 8-3, you're top of the AFC North still. But man, they didn't play very well at all. And, it was just like I said, it was like one of those sloppier games where it's like nobody like dominated anybody in any facet of this one. It was just kind of surviving throughout. Yeah. And the Baltimore Ravens, with what they have in Lamar, you expect them to win a battle in which it's survival mode. And to me, that's what stood out the most in this one, is that was the case.
Lamar looked rusty, having missed the week with the illness. He didn't, who knows how much practice he got. The Ravens have been very coy on what Lamar's dealing with. You only hope at this point Lamar, he is healthy, because it seems like he's had this kind of similar issue keep popping up for him in his young career. So that you got to keep your eye out for that. But I'll say this, man, for the Browns, great news, bye week. Bad news when you return for the bye week, Ravens. Listen, they kept it competitive and close. I think, what was the stat they pulled up? Like the Browns are the first team to ever lose a game which a quarterback threw 4 interceptions. They lost it by more than
I didn't see that. I don't know.
There was some they put up on the graphic at the end of the game. I will say, Lamar had a really nice drive in the third quarter, the touchdown drive, the crazy play to Andrews. I mean, Andrews is really a great weapon for him, and they have a great relationship. And then he found him for the end zone for the touchdown. Baker's response with the touchdown to Njoku was great. You thought, all right, now the game's going to pick up. Guys are getting going after that really bad first half, and then it just was a dud of the fourth quarter as well. Two teams right now that I just don't know where to grasp them. I mean, the Ravens got a great record, you know what I mean? And they won a game. They've won 2 to get, they won that game against the Bears, backup quarterback. They come back. They win an ugly game against the Browns. They're 8-4. They have some space in the AFC North right now. The Bengals are there. No one's out of it yet in that division, but I just don't feel confident with the Ravens competing against the top of the AFC right now. But they're clearly putting themselves in a position where they're basically 2 wins away from having a playoff spot in the AFC. So they're closing in on that with plenty of games left to go here. So you have to start considering them for making a run or whatever they're going to be in the playoffs. I'm very interested to hear more about what's going on with Lamar Jackson and his health and what's going, these sicknesses that aren't COVID, but it seems to be, bowel related. You hope it's not something chronic or whatever it may be, because that it would be really difficult and frustrating, I would imagine, for him to deal with it. And you hope it's not anything like that. And you hope it's just weird flukes and stuff like that. Anyways, for the Browns, if I were the Browns right now, I would strongly consider not playing Baker Mayfield again against the Ravens and giving him 2 full weeks and saying, when we come back from the bye, we start Case Keenum, we give it our all against the Ravens that way. And then you look at their schedule after that and you say, 2 weeks off for Baker the shoulder is not going to be healthy until you get surgery. But can you give the knee 2 full weeks? He strained his knee, and the foot 2 full weeks. Looks like he's got something wrong with that heel, and say, can he get 2 full weeks? And then Baker Mayfield at 90% healthy with the rest of his body besides his shoulder is still better than a Case Keenum. Not by much, in my opinion, but still better. Sure. And can you make a rundown? I would strongly consider it. I don't know if they will, because I think there's pressure from the organization and pressure from Baker's camp. But the Browns, listen, I predict the Browns to miss the playoffs. I'm feeling good about that right now. They're in a struggle mode.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think I may have found the stat. I don't know if this is the one, but this is per Jake Trotter on Twitter, who covers the Browns. Quarterbacks had lost 41 straight when throwing 4 interceptions until last night. The last one to throw 4 interceptions in a game and still win was Andy Dalton back in 2013. So it's been nearly a decade since a quarterback was able to pull that off. So yeah, some history making there for the Browns. Not good history at that.
No.
All right, Mark. Well, that does it for the roundup of Week 12. We have obviously tonight the Seahawks at Washington Football Team.
Ew.
Both teams reeling. Yeah, not going to be a great matchup here, but I would still take the Seahawks to win just because of Russell Wilson. I know it's been a tough go, but he's still a guy that I would ride with, to win some of these types of games. So Seattle's getting a 1 point on the road, and I would take them in that one. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. If you're a Seahawks fan and a Lions fan, you're the only two teams that aren't on the graphic when they show the NFC playoff picture right now.
Yeah, seriously.
And I mean, 14 of the 16 teams, even the Bears made in the hunt graphic. And so it's the Seahawks being closer to the Lions and as opposed to closer to, the Niners and even, there's other teams like a Vikings and stuff like that you feel like kind of holding on to playoff hope still at this point. It's tough. This game is going to be hard. I mean, it's on the road. Taylor Heineke, he's one of those weird guys that, he played big in those big primetime games that they had at the end of the season last year. And in that playoff game, it got him that 3-year contract to be kind of the permanent Washington backup / starter until they figure out what their next quarterback position is going to be, the future of the franchise. Russell Wilson, I agree with you. I would call this on my Saturday morning show. I do this thing where I say my lock of the week, my ups of the week, and a toss up. And a toss up for me means I'm not betting it. I'll watch it because it's football and I love football, but I just do not feel strongly betting it. I would call this a toss up. My gut says Seattle because they have Russell Wilson, but I don't make enough money to put any money on.
Yeah, they have not been playing well at all.
You know what I mean? If I was stupidly wealthy, there would never be a toss-up game because you just put money on anything because you're stupidly wealthy. But when you live on a budget and you just recently got engaged and you're saving for a wedding, this is what I call a toss-up game. No money will be placed on it. But I would take the Seahawks. If you put a gun to my head, 23-17, something like that, 23-20, close.
Yeah, I would take the under in points for sure. Either
interceptions, turnovers, wild game. Russell has a drive, maybe late, a big play to Metcalf or Lockett to seal the victory.
Couple quick things before we get to your Super Bowl plane update. We'll look at the injuries sustained this past week. Christian McCaffrey, season over. Really brutal for the guy. Back-to-back seasons, just not able to stay healthy. His ankle this time will put him out for the season. Dalvin Cook with a shoulder injury, not considered to be season-ending, but he's going to miss some time. Jack Conklin for the Browns, his season's over with a knee injury. That looked brutal with him. They can't believe they let him walk off the field with that.
Yeah, then he had that weird stumble.
Yeah, that didn't look good. Debo Samuel has a groin injury. He could miss some time, but it's not considered serious. And Dan Arnold with a knee, he will be on IR as well. We did fail to mention the Panthers game. That skipped my mind there. 33-10 victory for the Dolphins at home over the Panthers. Cam Newton's homecoming, which was great a week ago. Now you're starting to see kind of why he wasn't signed, perhaps, for an extended period of time. But he's still probably the best bet for the Panthers going forward just because of that quarterback room and the issues that they have had there. All right, Mark, let's get your Super Bowl plane update. Who's on, who's off, who's getting the boot out of first class, all that good stuff.
Can I quickly say this about Tua? I saw a stat on Twitter and I didn't 100% catch it. I think maybe Field Yates put it up, but look, I don't know if you can find it really quick. He's completing passes he completed passes at an alarming rate right now. I mean, like an extremely efficient rate. And if you're Tua, that was the thing coming out of college that you could bank on. Like people were like, he's Drew Brees, he's Baker Mayfield, where it's like, this guy's going to be extremely accurate. And we talked about any career momentum in a positive way is good for Tua. A winning streak right now and stats like that. That's the type of career momentum you need. Also, Tua, the thing he's got going for him right now, not a great quarterback class in the first round. And if you're a Aaron Rodgers and a big free agent quarterback, do you want to go to AFC East? We got to deal with Josh Allen and New England right now. I don't know. So, Tua's got some things going from career momentum. Could that be?
Yeah, he's
kind of light a fire for him.
He's starting to develop a little bit of I think confidence
with Waddle
out there on the field.
Especially.
Yeah, definitely. Waddle's an impressive talent. Per Field Yates, Tua is just the fourth quarterback in NFL history to complete at least 80% of his passes in back-to-back games with at least 30 attempps.
Yeah,
so,
that's a real stat.
Yeah, it's a real stat. And accuracy is what he was billed at. So he's living up to that aspect of his game. It's whether or not he can put the rest together, stay injury free, and they may still have their franchise guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's still too early to write out Tua again.
Yeah,
he's in that Joe. It seems so weird, but it's like Joe Burrow, him, Justin Herbert. These guys haven't even played. None of them have played 2 full years yet in the NFL.
No,
I always give the guys into year 3. If you were drafted in the first round, you get into year 3 in order for me to really, start making full opinions of where you go. That's why Daniel Jones, I've been harder on Daniel Jones this year. Cause this is year 3, dude. Where's the progress? Where are you showing me that you're winning games for your team as opposed to just not losing games for your team? All right. Dan, Super Bowl plane. I've made I tried to be I tried to be a little harsher this week and say, all right, it's post week 12. We're into the final third of the season here now at this point. And I got to be more serious about right now. Who do I trust if I was putting future bets on? These are teams I actually could see winning the Super Bowl. And I'll say the first class is down to 4 teams as this morning, 2 in the AFC, 2 in the NFC. The Packers and the Bucs in the NFC. They're the only teams right now that I could say I personally feel confident they could win at home and they could win on the road, big games to get to the Super Bowl and to then win a Super Bowl. Right now, I just don't feel that way about the Arizona because I just don't know. I mean, they have a great record, but Kyler Murray health, they lost J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins health, where they're at. And then with the Rams, I mean, they just haven't won. I can't just keep doing because of talent. They just haven't won the games on the road and the big games against the big teams to prove it. And it just doesn't look like they're going to get home playoff games right now. And so can they win multiple road playoff games to get to Super Bowl? I just don't see that right now. In first class for the AFC, it's the Patriots and the Chiefs. I know it's crazy but the Patriots are in the first place in the AFC East. So they are on track right now to have home playoff games. Same with the Chiefs. And they have coaches I trust. The Chiefs have an offense that I was starting to find that confidence. They put games together. And the Patriots defense is nasty. And they have a young quarterback who's completely bought in. That's finding a relationship with his tight ends. And that this Patriots offense looks a lot like that Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez tight end driven offense of years ago. And so they're scary right now. As of today, again, the plane is fluid. The plane is on in the air from Indy to Chicago. Who knows what could happen by the time it lands in Chicago next week when we're doing the show. Right now, business class. Remember, business class are teams that are playoff teams, and I think definitely could win a game in the playoffs. But could they win 2 or multiple to get to a Super Bowl? Right now, I don't think so. Titans, Ravens, Bills in the AFC. They all have serious flaws. A lot of them are health concerns. Titans, it's health. Ravens, it's some health, but it's also they're not playing Ravens style football right now. There's way too much passing for Lamar Jackson. And where is the health of Lamar Jackson at, missing games and not being fluid? And then for the Bills, I just don't know. The Bills have lost games against teams they shouldn't have. And when they've played against teams good teams, they've beaten them. They haven't looked confident enough recently to do that. Bad turnovers as well. And for the NFC in the business class, Cardinals and Rams. They're the NFC West teams. loaded with talent. Do I trust them enough? They seem like such warm weather teams to be on the road in a Green Bay, in Lambeau in January. Those red uniforms of the Cardinals and little Kyler Murray. It's hard to picture them beating an Aaron Rodgers. And we just saw it with the Rams what happened. Stand by. These are teams that look like playoff teams to me. Wouldn't be shocked if they won a game, but I have no faith in them winning multiple playoff games in the playoffs. Bengals, Colts in the AFC. They feel like playoff games. They feel like maybe they could steal, upset, but they do not feel like they are representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Bengals and Colts. And then for the NFC, it's your Niners and the Cowboys. Cowboys right now, not only is it injuries, but their identity, as you talked about, out the window when you're asking Dak to throw that many times. It's just not what this Cowboys team should be doing right now, and not what they're built around to be successful, especially January football on the road, possibly in a Green Bay, in an Arizona, in a Tampa. It just doesn't seem like that's a winning formula for this Cowboys team. So there you go. That's the Super Bowl playing post week 12.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, that just about does it. Oh, we didn't do our bold strategy. We can nail this quickly. Kirk Cousins lined up under center, except it was under guard. He went to the right guard and tried to take a snap from the right guard. They had to take a timeout and had a couple players tell him, like, hey man, you're at the wrong center. Was that just kind of a perfect statement of how the game went for Minnesota at the end there, and kind of just Kirk Cousins as well?
Well, it's one of those where it's like, I always equate that. Listen, if you're a guy like Kirk Cousins and social media and the Twitter world loves to trash you anyways, that's the worst. That's worst case scenario. You know what I mean? That is like Mark Sanchez butt fumble type stuff. That's like, you don't want that, because the next time Kirk makes a really boneheaded play, that's going to come back up. That will follow Kirk wherever he goes. And it's like Tom Brady when he did the 4, against the Bears last year. And that, that was
one of those brain farts,
That went viral, but it's like Tom Brady can laugh at that, and he's already won the Super Bowl since then and has made that meme. He owns that meme now. Meme doesn't haunt Tom anymore. He thinks it's funny. He owns it. Kirk, I know he's probably not a social media guy, doesn't really care, but that's such a bet. Immediately you're like, no, Kirk, no, that's so bad. So bad for a guy with bad luck in primetime and big games for a guy like Kirk.
Bold strategy that did not pay off.
No.
For Mr. Kirk Cousins. Well, that does it for our Week 12 recap, everyone. We're happy to be back, and we will, of course, return again next week for our Week 13 recap with another slate of, a lot more divisional games as we get down the road here for that playoff push. So, this is where things really ramp up. So we're going to have a lot to talk about in the coming weeks for sure. So look forward to that. Follow him at Mark Hespin. Follow myself at Dan Vasco. The show at FB Lounge Pod on Twitter. And be sure to give Mark some love this week, as he is newly engaged, Mr. Mark Hespin.
Feels great.
Great stuff. All right, everyone. We'll see you here next week.